Yeah.
Your voice, your music, your station. WGHC 98.3 FM.
Good evening and welcome to Straight Talk Radio coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. I am Mazi Okachukwu, and with me in the studio is
Master educator.
good evening and welcome to the program. We would like to welcome you as we discuss today the violence hitting our community in Chicago. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, and it seemed like over the weekend we had another incident, another outburst of violence. Mazi Obasi, any thoughts?
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Like we had said at the last show last Tuesday, there's a lot of lip service being paid to finding solutions to violence. A lot of what is being proffered is really meaningless because it has not scratched the surface of violence. And, I go back to where we stopped last weekend. Things will get better from inside. Unfortunately, it should not be that way, but it seems to me that that's about the only way things will begin to get better.
So you're not thinking there are any saviors coming?
There's nobody coming.
Oh man, that's disappointing.
There's nobody coming.
So the last time when we talked about this, we talked about the responsibility of the people in the community.
Yes.
And I still think that is number one. That's where it needs to start. That you
Yes.
have a problem, you do have that problem. Waiting for somebody from outside, waiting for the police, the mayor, or anybody else who doesn't live in your community to tell you what the solution should be with the things you're suffering. It's not, I mean, they're not feeling it the same way you're feeling it. They're not seeing it the way you're seeing it. So they are not the best qualified to be able to define your problem and solve it for you. I think the community is still number one. Any thoughts on that?
It has to be. It has to be. There's something that we all know
Yes.
that happens in America. And let me preface this by saying this is not necessarily an American
problem.
thing. Yes, it is. That's the way of life. Okay, when you have power and influence, things happen.
Yep.
There are communities where if there is a small spike in violence,
Yes.
immediately assets are brought into play.
Resources flow.
There you go, to make sure that these things never happen.
Yes.
Unfortunately, much of the violence is happening in our poorer neighborhoods.
And it's been going on for so long, so it's almost like it's routine now.
Well, because it is, they are invisible. They are invisible. The truth is, we open the newspaper or we turn on the news on TV. 7 people shot. You move on. Even the news media,
Yes.
it is only in rare instance will they come and try to let you know the impact of this death on a family, on a society. It's just quick news clip and you move on.
Yes.
So that's the premise, to say nobody sees you. You have to find a way to begin to help yourself.
So I remember during the March for Our Lives, you remember what happened in Florida with school shooting, not
Yes.
necessarily the same as what's going on in
Sure,
Chicago.
sure.
But when that happened and those kids rose up and said, this is not going to happen in my neighborhood, we got to do something. And one of the things that one of those children speaking said is, this happened in my neighborhood, but I want to use it to highlight things that are happening in other neighborhoods of color, where
Yes.
it's not always seen.
Absolutely.
So I get what you're saying, where you say in certain neighborhoods, if this happens, all the resources will be brought to bear. We will find the root of this. Everybody will work to get it done, and it will be taken care of. But because of where it's happening and who it's happening to, that hasn't become priority number one. After all, how many of you guys are going to vote anyway?
That's the point. That's the point.
So then what should the community do? Knowing that nobody's coming, knowing that nobody's going to see them. I know we talked about this a little bit. I just want to do a little bit of revision.
Well, yeah, like we said, you have to try to be brave. You have to try to be brave. Don't accept that things have to be this way.
Yes.
Nobody expects you to become a one-man vigilante.
No.
But,
It's gotta be a community effort.
but, you can, in these communities, a lot of people know the troublemakers.
Yes.
Make a list. Send it to the police. Keep sending it. If they don't listen to you, make that list and send it anonymously to Sun Times
Yes.
or Chicago Tribune.
Yes.
Name these people and make them public.
I mean, we make it seem like it's just such a hard thing to name them, or you have to hide. The same way that you take your video camera out when you see a police harassing somebody in your neighborhood. The
Yes.
same way that you post those videos on YouTube, or even give it to people who will post it. That's the same. There are video cameras on your phones that you know how to use already. Use them when you see things happening in your neighborhood that is not supposed to be happening, that you should not be accepting anymore.
Yes.
Make those videos. You could always find a way to get it to a journalist to be the safest, or to somebody who's far from that neighborhood to post it,
To upload it on YouTube.
upload it somewhere.
Yes.
YouTube,
F-
or
Facebook.
Facebook. There are so many places.
Yes.
And then let the authorities do what they should be doing
Yes.
anyway, or let it go viral if it doesn't, but somebody's going to highlight it. Let's take care of this problem right now.
Yes. So that's one way. You know, the reality is, of course, that gangs may be very well known within the neighborhood,
Yes.
but gang members don't particularly want themselves to be notorious in the larger American context.
Right.
You belong to your family, but you don't want the whole world to know. So the fact that you can publish a list of gang members,
Yes.
that is already doing something.
Yes.
If you know that somebody was shot and you know which gang that person that was shot comes from, and you know the gang that shot them, make that public.
Yes.
Make that public. So, XYZ gang on 47th Street, where they are mostly concentrated, one of their members was shot. We believe it is the ABC gang that is operating here. So we are looking for reprisals.
So one of the things is we who live outside there,
Yes.
and the politicians would always say we're going to deploy more police, and they often do.
Yes.
And they send police, and the police get there, but then they run into a roadblock because you go to the person who was shot, still surviving, and they will say nothing.
Yes. Who shot you?
You
I
go
don't
to
know.
the people who are around, and they will say nothing.
Yes.
So the police effort is kind of quenched because the police will now have to try to put together a puzzle for which they do not have all the pieces.
Yes.
And we blame the police for not doing their hard work of policing when we are tying their hands, their leg, and everything behind their back, and trying to have them, figure it out by prophecy or my other friend will say ESPN.
Yes. Yes.
But it's terrible that you actually put yourself in that position, because what happens is you think you are actually sucking it to the police, but what that does is guarantee that the guy watching this or somebody else watching this knows that nobody's going to talk anyway.
Yep.
So if he feels like he's going to do something terrible to somebody, he's going to go ahead and do it and hope
Impunity.
that they escape before the police shows up, because when the police shows up,
Nobody's
nothing
going to
happens.
talk. Yeah, absolutely.
And as one man who was running for election asked, but you're gonna lose if you tell the police. Think about it. If you do not tell the police or help them solve the crimes in your community, that perpetuates the crime. If you help them solve the crime, you're going to think there's going to be retaliation. Well, if there is no retaliation, or if you are afraid of retaliation and you don't tell the truth or get the crime solved, you will, at some point, be a casualty of the same thing you failed to stop. It's almost like you see a rolling wave coming and you haven't prepared yourself, you haven't built any things to stop it, you haven't built any walls. It's going to breach whatever is out there, and the flood is going to take you away. So if we want to stop this flood, we have to start putting barriers in front of it.
Well, you know, like like the Chinese proverb says, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
That's lunacy right there.
So, talking about the police.
Yes.
So if we can spend a few minutes talking about the police.
Yes, yes.
So, Chicago police has a very bad reputation in some of our inner city
Not
neighborhoods.
just Chicago, a lot of police have terrible reputation in
Well,
the inner city.
yes.
Well earned
Well,
in some
yes,
places.
yes,
well earned.
yes. This is not holding forth for anybody.
Yes.
I'm using Chicago because we're talking about Chicago crime.
That's right.
So, I know that a big part of the code of silence is also the fact that nobody trusts the
Trust them.
police.
That's right.
And this is, of course, based on antecedent.
Experiences.
Yes.
Yes.
The police has not been, let's just say their record in the inner city policing has not been stellar.
They're always afraid for their lives, or they always come up with what they think are solutions but do not have the community element to it. So an example, the same week that we were buried and inundated with the number of people that were killed the weekend of Lollapalooza,
Yeah, Lollapalooza, yes.
the police were in the news. They just got buried with what happened because they took an 18-wheeler truck full of shoes, I think brand name shoes, and put it in the south side of Chicago, left it open,
And then
which
map-
seems like
yes,
entrapment
yes,
to the
yes.
community and the people in the community actually. So that's how you know that these videos work, because people started taking videos and started shouting at the police and started telling them, hey, here's a truck here, come and move it out of our neighborhood. We don't want this is entrapment, which was the right thing to do anyway in that community, to
Yes.
make sure that the police knows you don't want this kind of stuff. And you don't want to entrap people and have them have records and have them go through the life of prison, industrial complex that we know so well about. And anyway, so we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
But being able for the community to be able to say to the police, we don't want this, this is not what we want, this is not the right solution right now for a community that's ailing, that don't have job and trying to entrap these kids, that's the wrong solution.
Yes.
I know somebody sitting in their office probably thought maybe there's a whole lot of breaking in this neighborhood.
Let's-
a lot of
let's
people have
nab
been
the
losing
bad-
things.
yes.
Let's entice them and get the bad guys and get them off the
Yeah.
street. Sounds great in theory, but it's the wrong thing to do if you know what comes after that. Because once that person gets snapped, maybe it's their first time, maybe it's their 20th time, maybe they were the headache anyway. But that life is lost for a long time, because once they get into that system, there is no rehabilitation.
Beyond that.
They will be hardened.
Beyond that, I think if you took a truck full of brand name Nike shoes
Yes.
and parked it in virtually any
Youth.
where they are young, some of those shoes will go missing.
It's the-
So no, but but so if you switch it around a little bit,
yes.
I have in a professional, in my profession, come across quite a few policemen. And yes, you do get to see some jerks
And
among them,
they
but
make the loudest
but
noise.
a lot of these men and women
Yes.
are decent.
Yes, and it's not easy for anybody to
Okay.
serve in a danger and put their lives on the line.
And we have to accept
Yes.
that part of the problem, which is also, we have talked about it in earlier programs, the problem with America is the lack of communication. We don't know each other.
Yes.
So to the police, you are the inner city robbers, looters, rapists. And to you in your community, these are the crooked cops that are coming here to shoot you.
Yep. To fear for their life and all of a sudden discharge their weapon.
There you go. So a line is drawn,
Hard line.
very hard line, and everybody stays on their own side and positions harden. Now, in an ideal community,
Yep.
it is the responsibility of the police to cross over, to begin to build bridges with the community.
And I know the Chicago police have tried a few, have
Yes.
partnered with a few organizations, local organizations,
Yes.
to try to do that. So
Yes.
we commend those efforts,
Okay.
and there should be more.
Now, but the issue is, like the Ndi Igbo say, onye ụwa jụrụ anaghị ajụ onwe ya.
Yeah, if you're rejected, you can't reject
If
yourself.
the whole world rejects you, you cannot reject yourself.
Yes.
If the police, well, again, if Mohammed will not go to the mountain,
mountain should just start
mountain,
shifting.
please come and see Mohammed.
That's right.
It is your community, your lives that are in danger.
Take it back.
If the police will not build bridges,
You walk across
go
that line.
and build your own bridge.
Walk across the divide.
They
and
will meet
bridge it.
you with suspicion.
Yes.
They will meet you with antagonism. Hopefully, if you persist over time,
There are a few
they
good
will
men out
begin
there.
to see you as a human being.
Yes, and I mean, I think there are intentions on both sides to do that.
Yes,
But there is still that fear that we have to get across. And the beginning of anything is hard. The Igbo people say that the beginning of a cry is harder, right?
Yes.
So it is hard to try something for the first time or try to bridge a chasm. If it was easy, the chasm won't be
it
there.
won't
in
be
the
there
first
in the
place.
first place. Yes.
So community effort requires that you report those people who are doing the wrong things. If you have to mask it by giving it to someone else to report for you so that you don't get in trouble, do that. But the best way to put yourself out of danger is to get rid of danger, or to get people to get rid of the danger for you. And the police are equipped to do that.
Yeah.
So if something happens, if you see something, say something. That's what they tell us, right? And it really works. Because if you look at those neighborhoods, we talked about the Parkland kids, they saw something, they said something, they didn't keep quiet. It's happened in so many places where we go, oh, well, I mean, they did it again today. The same people, same things, everybody goes home.
Yeah.
And it happens again, and then again. Then it becomes routine, and it's expected. You don't want your kids to continue to expect that they could lose their life anytime they walk out. That doesn't a good life make.
They did there was a program I watched one time when they were interviewing kids in a particular elementary school. I don't remember which one. And at least 70% of them said, yeah, we've seen dead bodies, we've seen people shot in the street. And these are 9,
Young
10-year-old
kids.
kids.
That's traumatic.
Yes. And if this is what we allow, because when you condition children to become
That this is normal. This is part of-
desensitized,
That's
yes,
part of life.
that's part of the problem.
Yes.
So you cannot, unless, well, we said again, if you can move, you run away.
Yes.
Yeah,
If you
but,
have an option to
mhm.
leave your situation, sometimes that's actually
Yeah,
an
because,
option.
Yeah, everybody deserves, I mean,
A better
pursuit
life.
of happiness.
Yes,
It is
yes.
part of what is written in our constitution.
That is right.
Yeah. So, but not everybody can run away.
Yes.
Not everybody can run away.
If you can't run away, then make sure you're able to say these things I will not allow into my surroundings. And if you see them, find a way to remove them.
Yeah, you know, they say when the active shooter training,
Yes.
if there's an active shooter, you run. Number one, you run away.
Yes.
If you can't run away, you hide.
Yes.
If you can't hide, you fight.
Yes.
That is your last option. So, for these inner city families, most of you cannot run away. Unfortunately, you can't hide
Yeah.
because the violence has been brought. Many
Right,
you see
it's
people
living right there.
being shot in their living room watching TV.
Yeah.
Where else can you hide? Therefore, the only option left for you
Is to fight.
is to fight.
And like we said before, so many people would love to help, but unless you start showing signs that you don't want these things, that these are not, then it will never really grow with.
Yes.
Because you could remove the people doing it now, and or the authorities who, through their hard work and even past the challenges that are being put in front of them, if they are able to find the people that are the troublemakers and remove them, the other people have learned and will continue to do that until you start saying, no, we should make it, we are making it uncomfortable for you to do this here. You can't do this here. If you want to live here, you live the right way. If you're not going to be able to, if you don't think this is a good lifestyle for you, then you make a move instead of having to try to find ways for you to move.
I'll give you another very little way you can fight. Many people in neighborhoods have binoculars.
Yes.
Okay. World War surplus and all of that.
Yes.
We know that a very big part of violence is drug related.
Yes.
And when we say drug related, it's not the users, it's the dealers that
Yep.
are involved in violence.
Yep.
We also know that a lot of users maybe are coming from outside the community to come into the community to buy,
Yep.
which is another reason why you defend your turf.
You make sure nobody finds it safe or finds it easy to come from another community into yours to make yours
Take-
a bad place.
Take license plates. Take
Yes.
license plates.
Yep.
Call again. Call the Sun Times. Call Chicago Tribune.
Don't even call. Drop it off. They will pick
You know,
it up.
somebody and say, okay,
Upload it.
these are the license plates of people coming to buy drugs in our community.
Yep.
I know there was a time, I remember when somebody tried to cite an adult club in certain neighborhoods.
Yes.
The residents tried to fight it legally, and I think they lost. So what the mothers did was to everybody come out with a camcorder,
And start recording the people.
recording the people coming in there.
Yes.
Traffic dried up, the club had
Nobody
to
wants
close
to
down.
be seen, right?
So, you know, these are the little things you can do. And I promise you, as you are thinking of ways of trying to solve this problem, get together a few people and
Yes.
find somebody who can write a program for you. Go and load it up on what's this GoFundMe.
Yes.
Eh? So this is what we're trying to do to take our neighborhood back. This is what we need to raise money. You can do it under an anonymous name.
And there are organizations that are not anonymous that are actually out there trying to help do this, and they need a lot of foot
Yes.
soldiers, a lot of
There
volunteers.
you go.
Find one. You don't have to start something new, but if you have a great idea and you think you
Yep.
have something new, go for it. But if you are looking for some place to plug in, there are organizations already.
Yep.
There are ones that are offering after school program. There are ones that are saying, look, we want to flush out these people. So there are many of them that you could search for, and they're not hiding, that you could actually leverage to make this work.
Yes.
But if there is not any in your neighborhood, then that means that you gotta start one.
Well, yeah. Again, I know it sounds like an uphill task, very difficult, undoable, but I promise you, we are all children of God. We all have brains.
Yes.
If we sit down and really think about our problems, we can begin to look for simple ways to find solutions. And like I say, if you publicize these things, a lot of Americans will give you money.
Oh yes.
They will give you money.
think of an idea, set up a GoFundMe
Yes.
page. I'll be the first to donate. to it.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll be right back in just a few seconds. Thanks for listening to us on Straight Talk Radio and WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station.
I am Mazi KK Odeluga.
Mazi Ejikeme Obasi.
Namazi Oke Okachuku.
This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see it.
Coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station.
Listen to us this and every Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono.
Welcome back to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. Straight Talk Radio is a news and current affairs program focusing on the diaspora from Africa mostly, who are living in the U.S., and this is news and events from an Igbo perspective. On Tuesdays, we talk to you about all things global. We look at what's in the news globally, and we talk about it and give you a perspective from an Igbo point of view. If you want to join us in the program and you want to be able to call us on the radio and share your opinions, you could call us by dialing 1773-942-7167. If you're listening to us on Facebook and you have not been able, or you haven't tried to download the apps that will make it easier for you to listen, not only on Facebook, please go to your Apple App Store and download the WGHC 98.3 FM app from the App Store. Or if you use Android or Windows, download the TuneIn app and find the WGHC station on it, and you could listen to us anytime. We have much more than Straight Talk Radio shows on this station. You could listen to African music, you could listen to African programs, you could listen to Caribbean programs, you could listen to programs from all over the world, but mostly with a slant to Africa, Caribbean. And we encourage you to do that. We are also a not-for-profit and community-based radio station, and we ask for your donations because we live on that. That's how we pay our rent and pay for the equipment that we use. So please go to our page, WGHCFM.org, and click on the top right-hand corner where it says donate. We thank you for however much you're able to donate, and of course all donations are tax deductible. Thank you for listening to us. Today we are discussing the violence still going on in Chicago. 2 weeks ago, Lollapalooza weekend, we had a record number of people shot, but over the weekend that we just came out of, we had a repeat of the high number of people shot in violence in the south side of Chicago. And as much as we talk about it, as much as a lot of other people talk about it, as many programs as there are out there, it seems to be like it's not, I mean, no matter what's thrown at it, more police, more politicians, more talk, nothing seems to be working. And that's because we think that the people who live in these neighborhoods have to own the problem and the solution first. And then the rest of us will know the best way to be able to help.
Yeah.
So part of that also is we have people that represent these communities, politicians that represent these communities, and I'm pretty sure that they do go out there and canvass for support. I'm sure they go out there and have campaigns, but why hasn't this been a solution? Why hasn't there been a solution that the politicians who are campaigning in those wards, who are representing those places, could be able to offer? What are your thoughts?
Well, if you really think about it, some of the things we're talking about today
Yes.
should be things that your representatives should be having direct one-on-one,
Conversations.
small groups, large groups, discussions within the community to look for solutions.
Maybe they're afraid to go in because they're thinking they may get shot.
But then why are you, but when it's time for votes, you can go in.
Okay. Yeah, I think they put their guns down for campaign
So
events.
yeah, but again, this is a very important part of. If you look at politics in America, oftentimes, well, again, this is not peculiar to America.
Yes.
It's just that we're
Politics.
talking about
We're
yes.
talking about our neighborhood.
Yes. If you go to the news right now, it is Rauna
Oh yeah.
versus JB.
Yes, versus whoever else. Is on.
And all that talk at that level.
Yes.
The governor. Who's going to win the governorship?
Yes. Yes.
The governor represents Illinois.
Yes.
He will first listen to where the big donors are writing checks from.
Yep.
Then he will listen to downstate Illinois before they come back and look at the inner cities.
Yes.
I'm sorry if that offends you, but that is how things
Or
are.
if you're running for governorship and you're thinking we're not representing it right, well, that's how we see it.
Yeah.
If you have
so,
a different opinion, call us at 773-942-7167. I would like to hear your part.
absolutely, because I would like to hear either JB. Well, Rauna is the present governor.
He's the incumbent.
I don't think he has brought any wonderful ideas about solving this problem.
He hasn't focused on this because he's got taxes and what's the
Yeah.
pension and
Yes.
budget and all the other
and
things to worry about.
veterans, yeah.
Yeah.
So, JB, we listen to a lot of debates.
Yes.
I have not heard anybody sit down and make a comprehensive plan that says in 5 years, violence in Chicago will be cut down.
5 is too long, but at least we want somebody to at least put some plan.
No, I'm saying that in 5 years, we're going to reduce violence in Chicago to less than 5% of what it is today.
Yes.
So, that
By
is
doing
not
X, Y, Z.
X, Y,
not
Z.
just
There
telling
you go.
us
No, no,
blanket,
well, that's the point.
blanket,
That's
I'm
the
going
point.
to do this.
That's
We had
the
some
point.
people tell us that before. Yes.
Okay, so you also have a mayor.
Yes.
This is his city.
Of Chicago. Yes.
So we talk about beautifying the city.
Yes, and getting big
with,
companies headquartered here,
There you go. So now we're talking about
and the taxes on sugar and all the other things that we talk about. Yep.
Riverwalk,
Yes.
updating it,
Nice.
billions of dollars,
Yes.
making beautiful. O'Hare,
Oh yes, another runway.
who has brought out a package that says Inglewood.
This is how much we're budgeting for it. This is what we're going
Inglewood.
to do. This is when we plan to do it. Just like we talked about O'Hare and the other projects.
So,
If you don't name the problem, you haven't started.
and therein lies the problem. As a community, we started by saying, you are invisible.
Yes.
Nobody sees you.
You gotta
In
start solving
fact,
this problem by yourself.
To tell you the truth, if it were possible, I think the politicians will build a big wall around to keep you in there so they can truly forget you.
And actually take the media and everybody out
Out
of
of
there.
there.
So
Then
that
you can do
I've
whatever.
said this before. Remember Training Day,
Yes.
where he was talking about the people shooting themselves. He says, so what you're saying is let the
Yeah.
let these people. He said, yeah, let the animals kill
Yes,
themselves,
yes.
God willing, right? So
So
that's how they will treat this, because it's a nuisance much more than a problem to solve.
So, as you are sitting there trying to solve your problems
Yes.
as individuals,
Yes.
as 2 to 3 friends, as smaller groups, whatever,
Yes.
also remember that somebody sits at
As a
City Hall,
representative for you,
earns a salary,
that you pay,
enjoys the perks
that
of
comes
being
with-
a rep,
yes.
and is supposed to represent you.
Yep.
Where is he?
If they're not sitting
Or
down
she.
making plans with you and trying to solve this problem, then you need somebody else.
Why are they there?
You need somebody else that has your interest at heart, which means make sure you're registered to vote if you're old enough, because in November we're going to elect a whole lot of people. And actually, even before November, the city council and all those things the primaries have gone on in so many wards and
Yes.
districts, but start finding out who is representing you now, or who is vying to represent you.
And you know what? Even if it's not election time, you can picket your representative.
Absolutely.
You can go and stand in front of his office with your placards and refuse to go The press will be very happy to do that. Then embarrass him or her. Where are you when our
Shame them
children
into
are
having
dying?
the conversation
Yes.
and bring in the resources that are necessary
Yes.
that you ask for to help solve this problem.
Yes. So I think as we have this discussion, you begin to see people are not powerless.
No, there are things we could do.
It's just that we have not mobilized in the right way.
Yes. So if you're listening to us on WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station, on Straight Talk Radio, discussing this, which is violence in Chicago and the solutions that may help resolve this. And so far, we've been saying that the solution belongs with the real solution belongs with the people that live in these neighborhoods first. But that doesn't absolve any of us that live far from it or that have power to influence what goes in there. But at least we think that the people living in there have the first responsibility to start naming this problem by making sure that those who are hiding in the shadows and doing this are exposed, and that they start to say these are the things we will or will not accept in our neighborhood, and make sure that those people living there, by banding together as a community, make sure that the community and the members of the community are living by it or are expelled or forced to leave. And the last conversation we had is about your power to vote, your power to exercise your citizenship right by making sure you pick the right people to represent you, whether it is in Chicago here as a councilman or in far away in Springfield, to make sure that you actually know who those people are, and if they haven't been coming around and talking to you and trying to find out a solution along with you, start shaming them. For the ones representing you right now, find their offices and picket, so that the ones who are trying to come in and represent you will know that you're not going to accept any nonsense from these politicians. And if you want to be part of this conversation, like I said before, call us at 773-942-7167. We are also live on Facebook, where I see Lyle Paul. Hi, Paul. Hello to you too. And you could leave your comments there on our Facebook page and on this live broadcast, and we will respond to you. If not now, even if you watch it later, we will respond to it at a subsequent program. So we talked about what the people will do and making sure they expose those people doing the bad things and draw a line to what they want, and also what they should do with the power that they have in selecting who represents them. What other things should we at least talk about that people could do? We don't have all the answers, but at least what can we think about?
We don't have all. If we had all the answers, we
would
wouldn't
have
be
solved
sitting
it.
here.
We would have solved this
yeah,
problem a long time ago.
So then the other sector we haven't talked about would now be the private sector
Yes.
that actually has a heart.
Yes.
So I know that a lot of corporations in the Chicagoland area, they give a lot of money.
Yes.
Give a lot of money to charity. They
Yes.
give a lot of money to things they hope will help make life in Illinois or the Chicagoland area better.
Yes.
So I'm going to appeal to them to consider targeted giving now.
To those organizations and that are inside these places or that are setting up shop inside these places, they need the money, whether it's after school program
Yes.
or something to combat violence. And I was talking to someone this evening. I said I know it is true when we say it's gun violence, but sometimes we focus we put a whole lot of emphasis on the gun
And not on the violence. Yes.
And a lot of people will start going to their corners when you start talking about gun, whether it's for hunting or it's for killing people or who kills people, whether it's gun or people who have guns. It is violence.
Mhm.
And I think we should focus a whole lot more these days on the violence, because if we take away the guns from these people who are doing bad stuff, they will use knives, they will use daggers, they will use whatever is. So let's focus on the violence, and when we stop the violence, the guns will go with it too.
Because the other part of it is, at the root of these problems lies abject poverty
Oh yes.
and lack of opportunity.
Yes.
because you talk to these kids.
And lack of hope.
Time after time after time, they say to you, if you don't sell drugs, there's nothing else to do in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And that is a very powerful indictment, because I would like to point out for people who, okay, let's assume you didn't know.
Yeah.
A lot of these inner city kids, the minute they move out of the inner city, they are targets.
Yeah.
Targeted. I'm sure everybody has now seen, especially for African Americans, you sit down on a park bench, they call police on you.
That's the
You
new
go
trend.
to a shop, they call police on you.
Can't just be black anywhere.
You
these
drink
days.
water, they call police on you.
You try to get into your apartment.
They call police on you.
Yes.
So the message that is constantly being sent is, stay in your place. We don't want to see. We
Or
don't want
stay
to
in the
hear.
place we expect you to be in.
That's your place.
Right.
That's what, yes.
Right. Whether it's your place or not.
Yes,
Right?
well,
You-
okay.
You may live in this community, but you don't look like you should live
Yeah,
here,
okay.
so we're calling the police on you.
So it is when you are already out of these inner city communities.
Yes.
Yes, things like that are painful, but they are painful. You're otherwise okay.
Yes.
For a lot of these inhabitants of the inner city, it is, the rest of America is a very frightening place.
And I think a lot of people miss what you're saying, because it's easy
Sure,
for a black
sure.
person to get, right?
Yes.
But the people that don't have the same experience do not get this, because
Okay.
imagine that you're doing everything right
Yes.
and somebody calls the police on you. Now, when the police comes to you, even if they were nice, what that's communicating to you is, we are going to use the men in blue against you. We are
Use
making
the
them
power,
your
the
enemy.
powers of the
The
state.
person calling the
Yes.
police on you already knows that they could use that resource against you.
Yes.
So, as much as you may try to like the police, it doesn't endear them to you because of that experience.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about the strained relationship and how the authorities and the police should do more work to actually bridge it, and a lot of people, I think, are probably thinking, well, in my neighborhood, we have nothing with the
Yeah.
police, and it works so well, and why would you be afraid of people who are putting their lives on the line for you? And, well, think about it. If you are somebody that's had police called on you for absolutely no reason other than being you, you wouldn't like to see the police as often.
And unfortunately, sometimes
Yeah.
that interaction does not end well.
No, because the police is already also conditioned. When you're calling, you're not telling them good things about this person,
Yeah.
right? They're conditioned that they're coming into something that is
Yeah.
dangerous. And I know you have to do a whole lot of convincing to me to tell me that all the shootings that we see where the police fear for their lives are really justified, and that they actually should be afraid of their lives. But I don't know what's in their heart, so I'll let it go. But it hasn't ended up well for a whole lot of people. And being that those people look like me and a lot of these other people in the inner city, it doesn't make anybody feel good about seeing the police, even when they're coming to help you.
So we also have to accept that poverty by itself is virtually a crime.
Yeah,
For
we've
many,
made it a crime.
yes, we have made it a crime.
Yes.
For many of you, of our listeners, maybe you back into something, your rear light breaks.
Yes.
You go to a shop, $75. You write a check, you
Yes.
fix it.
Yes.
For a woman whose $75 represents monthly feeding allowance,
Yep.
it's either change that rear bulb or a rear light,
Yes.
or have the family go hungry.
Yep.
You make that choice.
Yep.
That means she cannot drive. If she
Or
cannot
if
drive,
she does because she
she
has
gets
to go
arrested.
or because she has to go to work anyway to make that money.
to make the money. The minute you come, they pull you over for a rear, and in
In the
many
middle of the day when
instances,
it's not even dark. Yeah, you get a ticket which you can't afford to
But
pay.
you can't afford to
anyway,
pay.
and then you get a few more.
So-
The ticket stays longer, and he earns more money for them.
You know, that word empathy, not sympathy,
Yeah,
empathy, the ability
to
to begin to see the world through
From
the
the other
eyes of the
point of view.
yes, because you know, it is so easy.
And the police, a lot of them have discretion in what
Well,
ticket they write.
And
but
unfortunately, it doesn't go well for
they
most
don't-
of
they
the
don't
inner city
think- Right,
population.
they don't think that way
Yes.
when they are there. And I will
Yeah.
hope and pray that there will a lot more people will start thinking that, because I've seen videos that the police would like to promote and have always tried to promote, where the police have shown empathy and actually either bought more food for the person they encountered,
I have seen that.
or helped them out in some way. So we love those. We're not saying that you should anytime you stop somebody,
You go and buy them.
you spend all your money trying to help them. But at least there are some times that you should listen to the story, and even if the other person is not acting right, be able to put yourself in their shoes and make the right decision. A lot of the videos I see is actually the other person trying to be reasonable and the police not acting right and
Well,
escalating the
Well,
situation.
so, but again, it goes back to where, you know, we have to accept,
Yes.
we have to accept that we do not really see each other.
Yes, we don't.
So everybody acts out a script.
Preconceived.
Oh, if you're police, you have to be tough. You have to be firm.
And
you have to
every word out of your mouth should be obeyed exactly the same way it came out, even if you don't pronounce it outright.
So, of course, it is easier when it is a suburban kid with freckles and a nice face. You
Yes.
suddenly remember it has. But moving away from that,
Yes.
where we started this conversation
Was
really
what
was
the community should do,
If-
how we should
yeah.
bridge the divide.
if you are a corporation,
Yes.
you have money to spend. Consider you more than that community are in a better place to have time to think out what kind of resource can I put in this community that will give jobs.
And right, so
Jobs.
you could hire from there. You could, if you could, right?
Yes.
Depending on what kind of corporation.
If you don't want to hire out.
help give money to the organizations that are there trying to help people train to get a job,
Okay.
or trying to start some not-for-profit job training or workforce within those communities.
You know, Magic Johnson
Yes. Magic Theater, Magic.
put those things in the inner city.
Yes.
People said, it will never make money.
Not gonna work.
He made money, and he made money, and he offered jobs to a lot of people.
Yes.
Because if we accept that poverty drives people into drugs and gangs, and drugs and gangs drive people into violence,
Yep.
then why don't we attack the root cause, which
solve
is
the base
poverty?
problem. Right. Elevate people
compete,
out of that.
compete, give people an alternate to drugs.
Yes.
Hmm?
And for some of those people listening that are saying this is impossible, we've seen a few people that actually started from the inner city,
Yes.
even at the national level. So I could mention one named Jay-Z,
Okay.
who actually said on his own account that he used to sell drugs on the corner.
Yes.
And after a while, when he came to himself, he said, look, if I am doing this, I could actually do something legit and run a good business other than doing this, which is
Yes.
much more dangerous anyway. And not even,
Ended up not being as profitable
yes,
because look at where he is today.
right. So whatever talent that you have, instead of wasting that and thinking that there's a quicker way to money, there is no quicker way to money. There's actually an easier way to life. It's not about money.
So
Through the skills that you got.
I'm glad you just brought this up because so we are looking at things that can act as an alternate.
Yes.
So go and put a recording studio and tell all these young kids that are into hip hop,
Yes. Come practice your skills.
let's
here.
see who you are.
Yes.
Maybe one out of 20,000, who knows, will have the ability to make it.
Yes.
But in the interim, a lot of the other kids are in that studio working their butts off with the hope of.
And you can't save everybody. That's the other part we have to.
Yeah, well, yeah,
we have
yeah,
to
you
be
can't-
realistic
no,
about.
yes,
So,
yes.
but for the ones you could save, do
Yes.
something.
Yes. Yes. So that's really, I think, a big part. That, and I'm now not talking not the government,
Yes.
not the elected officials. I'm
Yes.
talking about private enterprise.
So private enterprise actually means also sometimes some of us
Yes.
of the same
yes.
hue and color
Absolutely.
who are living in the suburbia
Yes.
and who have made it outside of those walls and
Who have managed to escape.
who can't run fast enough
Yeah.
away from it. It is our responsibility to look behind and actually take the little resource that we could afford to spare, and we could always afford to spare a little bit,
Yes.
and put it back in those communities to do some of these things we're talking
Yes.
about. If we wait for somebody to do it,
Yes.
nobody
Yes.
will do it.
I agree.
Well, we've come almost to the end of our show. We only have 3 minutes to go. Any closing sentences before we?
Well, we've talked a lot about violence in Chicago.
Yes.
From the time we started this conversation to this time that we're about wrapping it up, another 30 to 40 people have died in Chicago.
Which is a really, really bad shame.
These are mostly young kids
Yeah.
who would probably, given the chance, be very productive.
Yes.
Incidentally, the trial of Malaya Pendleton's killers is going on now. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
She,
It's a
a
life that
rising
can't-
star,
Yeah. Yeah.
cut short.
And that's actually that's what I'm saying when I say what are you gonna lose? Not that I'm trying to channel our president when he was campaigning, but I'm
Yes.
saying if you do not take care of it right now, it
Yes.
comes to your doorstep, and then it's
Yes.
too late because you've lost the one person or the two people or the great people that were not part of that whole mess. You could have prevented this by making sure that the people that were causing the mess were taken care of. But you said, nope, not gonna talk to the police. Don't want to be labeled a rat. Don't want to. Well, if you keep doing that, you're actually ensuring that the violence continues and that it gets as close as possible to you. So it will be. We would not like to have any more stories like that of Miss Pendleton and so many more others. I know
A
there are
lot
streets
more
where they are putting names on plaques and there are cemeteries full of these people. We don't. It's that's not what the life is worth. Well, thanks for listening to us on WGHC 98.3 FM. This is Straight Talk Radio, your news and events from an Igbo perspective. And we pray and hope that Chicago heals and that people in those neighborhoods will do what is required of them to make it safer for them. And for the rest of us who do not live in the neighborhoods, that we actually look behind and remember to help our brother and be brothers and sisters keepers so that we will help solve the problem in our neighborhood in Chicago and with our neighbors. Well, from me, it is good night, and from Mazi Obasi,
Good night. God bless.
God bless.
I am Mazi KK Odeluga.
Mazi Ejikeme Obasi.
Namazi Oke Okachuku.
This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see.
Coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station.